and welcome everyone to our second module of CCNA2 Switching, Routing, and Wireless Essentials. For this week, we will be talking about VLANs and inter-VLAN routing. Again, this is your virtual instructor, Engineer Ernely E. Pineda. Without further ado, let's take a look at this week's module objectives. Alright, so this module contains two topics. Alright, so we're going to talk about first VLANs or Virtual Local Area Network, wherein we're going to talk about the purpose of VLAN in a switch network, along with how switch forwards frames based on VLAN configuration in a multi-switch environment. Later on, we're going to learn how to configure and implement VLAN and assign switch port according to VLAN based on its requirements. We're also going to talk about VLAN trunks and how to configure them to support VLAN operations, along with configuration of a dynamic trunking protocol. So, first part will just focus on the VLANs, okay, overview of VLAN, implementation, and configuration. Alright? Now, the second part of this module is the inter-VLAN routing discussion. Okay, so after we learned about the concepts on how to run and implement VLAN, the second part will teach us, okay, on how to interconnect those VLANs, okay, so that they can communicate with each other through a router. Alright, by configuring, number one, what we call router on a stick inter-VLAN routing setup, along with the configuration of inter-VLAN routing using layer 3 switching. Okay, at the end of this module, we are also going to observe, okay, and try to identify and even troubleshoot common inter-VLAN configuration issues. Okay, just in case you will be you will encounter, for example, some issues or some concerns or some errors with the implementation of your inter-VLAN configuration. Alright, so let's start off with the overview of VLANs. Okay, so what exactly VLANs are for. Okay, now when you talk about VLAN definitions, okay, if you're going to look at the topology, no? Usually when you see a network, okay, connected on a switch, okay, you are considering that network as one network. Okay, we consider it as one network. Okay, all of those computers that are connected on a single switch form a single network. Alright, so whenever you add host to that switch, okay, it will become part of that network. Okay, now the concept of VLAN is that when you implement VLAN on a switch, okay, you are creating what we call segmentation. Okay, gumagawa tayo ng parang segmentation that is considered as a grouping, no? Grouping of hosts or devices that are connected on the same switch, okay, but they are logically separated. So unlike the normal network, okay, na for example, let's say when you connect 5 hosts on a single switch, those 5 computers are connected on a single network. But once you implement VLAN, okay, pwede kang gumawa, no? We can create what we call segmentation that will be able to group, okay, those hosts according to their, number one, probably organization, okay, so that they can easily manage. Okay, at the same time, you are minimizing what we call yung tinatawag nating broadcast domain. No, instead of connecting all hosts in a single network that forms a very huge broadcast domain, by creating segments, okay, when you create segments, when you group them according to their role or according to their organization, okay, siniseparate mo rin yung tinatawag nating broadcast domain. Okay, so yung broadcast nila are native, no? It can be, kumbaga, parang restricted only to their groups kung saan sila na-assign. So one good example, if you're going to observe this sample network topology here, no? We have 3 switches, okay, and then we have hosts connected to those switches. But as you can see, no, when we implement VLANs, look at this, all right? This group of computers right here that is part of VLAN number 2 IT department are logically separated from other VLAN groups, okay, like HR and sales. Alright, so you can identify a host connected to a particular switch and then assign them or assign that host to a particular group or segment. So, regardless kung saang floor siya nakalagay or nakakonect. Okay, it doesn't matter. Alright? So, as long as it is connected to a switch that is running a VLAN, regardless kung saang floor siya ilalagay, that is the advantage of running VLAN, no? You can logically separate hosts according to their roles or organization. So, for example, gagawa ka ng VLAN for the IT group. Okay? So, yung communication nila within the IT group, their broadcast is restricted to that segment. Same with the HR group. Alright? Ito siya. Alright? Same with the sales group. Okay, represented by VLAN number 4. So these are VLAN IDs actually, no? VLAN 2, VLAN 3, VLAN 4. Alright? So yun yung concept of VLAN. Alright? So, in addition, okay, ito yung nabanggit natin kanina, no? Benefits of a VLAN design. Okay, number 1, I mentioned this one a while ago, no? Smaller broadcast domain. So it means you are minimizing the traffic that is being created by the broadcast domain. No? By dividing the LAN into segments, okay, it reduces the number of broadcast domains. Okay? Mas maganda if they will have a separate broadcast domain instead of having one big broadcast domain. Okay? That might disrupt network operation. Another, okay, you can have improved security. Okay? Kasi nga, okay, since you are logically grouping computers according to their organization or according to their group, no? For example, ito, no? Faculty VLAN, you have student VLAN, you have guest VLAN. So, it has improved security kasi all of those members, all of those computers that are part of faculty VLAN, okay, sila lang yung pwedeng mag-usap. Diba? Okay? So, the other one is improve IT efficiency because you can have small groups. Yan, kaya kanina, no. Improve security, improve IT efficiency. Okay, reduced cost. Okay, that is because you are using switch instead of routers to separate VLAN segments. Okay, and then of course the rest are just self-explanatory. So if you have smaller broadcast domain, so therefore you get better performance, you get better network performance, and it's actually simpler to manage. Okay? Kasi nga, you can actually shut down, no? If you want, no? A certain group. For example, if your network gets too congested, and then if you want to dedicate, for example, a certain bandwidth to a certain group, pwede, no? You can just temporarily shut down other network segment na hindi pa masyadong ginagamit or that is not priority at the moment. Okay? So, ganun siya guys, no? So, later on, we're gonna learn how to configure the switches, okay, in order for them to recognize VLAN IDs and VLAN assignments. Okay? So, meron tayong configuration dyan. Alright, so let's start first. Okay, before that, dito muna tayo, no? We have different types of VLANs. Okay? So, the first one is yung tinatawag nating default VLAN. Okay, so, sa isang switch, okay, in a switch environment, okay, sa privilege mode, pag sinabi mong, alright, when you type in show VLAN brief, is the command, sa privilege mode, okay, lilitaw ito. So, you have these values right here, no? So, you will notice that the VLAN 1 is already pre-created. Nandiyan na siya kaagad by default. Okay? Kasi lahat ng switch by default, okay, meron na siya kaagad VLAN 1. Alright? So, that is considered as the default VLAN. Okay? At the same time, meron din tayong tinatawag na default native VLAN and then default management VLAN. Lahat yan hawak ni VLAN number 1. Okay, baka biglang lumitaw sa exam, no? The VLAN 1, okay, kasi nga default yan, of course, definitely, it cannot be deleted or renamed. So, as you can see, no, lahat ng mga ports na nandito, okay, are members of VLAN 1. Okay? Pero as we move on, no, malalaman natin, no, part of the security measure, alright, is to change all the defaults. Okay, we learned that way back in Net1, no, part of the security protocol is to change everything, no, papalitan mo lahat ng default, okay, into a certain value. So that is, this one is also part of that, part of the security, no, tanggalin mo kay VLAN 1 yung default. Okay, so we can assign, no, actually, no, we can assign different VLAN number to be our, for example, default native VLAN or the management VLAN. Pwede mo siyang ilipat sa ibang number. Okay. I forgot, no, I missed this one. Yung VLAN 1002, 103, 104, 105, these are called reserve VLAN ID. So hindi mo siya pwedeng gamitin, no? You cannot create 1002, 1003, 1004 because these are used for certain protocols like this one. So if you want to create VLAN IDs, you can use 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. Wag lang si 1002, ito mga to. You can also use VLAN 1, of course. Kasama rin siya dyan. Alright? Okay, let's proceed. Alright. We also have the data VLAN. Okay? Sabi nga natin to, the VLAN 1 is the default data VLAN. Okay? Kasi nga, lahat ng interfaces nasa kanya initially. So, once we created other VLAN IDs, and then mag-a-assign na tayo ng groupings, ang gagawin natin is tatanggalin natin itong mga to. Okay, itong mga ports na to. Okay, kay VLAN 1, ililipat natin sila sa mga ibang VLAN IDs. Okay, later on, mamaya sa discussion natin, sa demo na lang. We also have native VLAN, okay, that is used for trunk links. Okay, that is another term that you need to remember, no? We have trunk, we have access. Alright? And of course, the management VLAN, okay, this is used in order for you to remote configure your switch. Ito yung ginagamit natin, no? Management, from the word management. Alright? In order for you to yun nga, no? It allows remote management through SSH, through Telnet, okay, through BTY traffic, no? Kaya nga management ang tawag sa kanya. Again, by default, VLAN 1 has all of these privileges. Okay? Alright, sige. Okay, so let's now move on, okay, to the discussion of first. Okay, let me talk about this a very important term, no, whenever you implement VLAN, no? Kapag meron kang VLAN, meron kang dalawang term na kasama. We call it trunks. Ito, trunk. Okay, at saka yung isa is yung tinatawag nating access, no? Access. Yan, access. Okay, these are modes. Okay, mode yan ng mga ports. Alright, so we have mode trunk, okay? We have mode access. Okay. By default, lahat ng mga port ng switch are all access. So, ibig sabihin, pag sinabing access, okay, itong port nito, for example, S2, port 11, S2, port 18, S2, port 6, lahat ng mga to are access mode. They are all access mode. So, ibig sabihin, papunta sila sa mga host from the word access. No? Papunta sila sa mga host. Yan. So, gaya nito, this one right here is an access. This one is an access. This was an access. Okay. But, whenever you run VLAN kasi, there will be time, no? Merong instance na kailangan nating palitan yung mode na yon in order for it to run, especially kapag nagtatrunk ka. Okay, what are trunks? Ito yun, guys. So, for example, if you notice, itong connection natin from S1 to S2, itong port na to, itong linyang to, okay, hindi nakakonect, walang nakakonect na PC dyan, no? Instead, it is a switch-to-switch connection. Okay? Now, in order for this PC na part of VLAN 10, at saka itong PC na to na part of VLAN 10 as well, nasa kabila siya, no? Para makapag-usap tong dalawang to, okay, kailangan, of course, dadaan sila kay S1. Diba? Kailangan silang dumaan kay S1. Alright. In order for them to do that, itong dalawang port na to, kung saan it is acting as a bridge na between those two VLANs, kailangan mong palitan yon ng mode. So, instead of access, these ports must be configured as trunk. So, ayan. So, kailangan na ko-configure to as trunk. Alright? So, itatrunk mo tong dalawang, itatrunk mo to, itong magkabilang dulo na to. You're going to change the mode into trunk. Okay, kasi nga, sabi ko natin kanina, by default, access yan. Alright, by default, access yan. Okay, so what exactly is the purpose of Cisco trunks? Alright, so number one, sabi dito, it allows more than one VLAN to communicate with each other. So, kapag hindi mo trinang ito, it means VLAN 20 cannot communicate with other VLAN 20 on the other side. So, ibig sabihin, there will be no communication in between VLAN groups unless naayos mo yung mga trunk ports. Yung mga modes nila kailangan nung palitan. If you leave this one in access, for example yan, access mode, tapos the other one is trunk, hindi rin yan uubra. Okay? Hindi rin yan gagana, mag-error yan. So, for it to run, you should be able to configure this end here, trunk, and then the other end there, trunk. Itong dalawang to. Basta itong connection natin from switch to switch. All of these ports na naka-assign dito must be configured as trunk. Okay? So, madali lang naman i-identify yung trunk. No? Trunk means yun yung connection in between switches. Okay? Sige. Okay. So, ito yung sinasabi natin kanina, no? Without VLANs, okay, this is considered as one big broadcast domain. Okay? So, walang grouping, no? Si faculty, si student, nahalo kay student, si guest, nahalo din kay guest. So, there's no segmentation there. Unlike when you configure switches here, yung S1, S2, S3, or S2, S3, to recognize VLAN, you can create what we call network segmentation. Okay? Which is much efficient when it comes to the performance of your network. So, ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina, no? This two lines right here, this line right here, and this one right here, must be configured as trunk to support VLAN 10, okay, and VLAN 20. So, yan. Okay? So that yung communication between VLAN will be okay. No? Ganun siya. Okay? The standard for the VLAN identification is 802.1q. Okay? Paki-ano na lang yan. Paki-ano, baka biglang lumitaw sa exam. Alright? So, we call that tagging. Okay? So, later na lang yung mga configuration sa sa demo na lang. So, let me just briefly show you the VLAN configuration na kung gaano lang siya kadali before I show you the packet tracer demo. Okay, so let's take a look at the numbers first. Alright, look at this. Alright. The normal catalyst switches natin, 2960 and 3650, these are Cisco switches models, no? Can support over 4,000 VLANs. Okay, kaya lang, meron ngang mga instances doon na hindi mo pwedeng gamitin. Ang dami ng 4,000 VLAN IDs ang pwede mong gawin, no? So, they are divided into following numbers. So, we have what we call the normal range VLAN, that is from 1 to 1005. And then we also have the extended range VLAN, that is from 1006 to 4095. So in a single switch, you can create up to 4,000 VLANs. Alright, so ganun siya ka-efficient, ganun siya cost-efficient, no? Because you don't need, di ba? For example, if you're going to create 20 networks, instead of you needing at least 10 routers, hindi na kailangan, no? Isang switch lang kailangan mo, sobra-sobra pa, no? In order just for you to create 20 networks, gawin mo lang siyang VLAN. Okay, ganun lang siya kasimple. Alright? You can use all these range numbers except for 1002 to 1005. Nakalagay, no? These are reserved or legacy VLANs. And then they are auto-created and they cannot be deleted. So, ito yung mga yon. So, yan. So, again, the command for you to see that is show VLAN brief under privilege mode. Okay? So, ayan siya. So, these are the numbers, no? So, again, kasi exam, biglang limitaw yan. So, what are the extended range VLAN numbers? So, just take note of those VLAN IDs. Okay. So, let's proceed with VLAN creation commands. Okay, madali lang to, guys. Okay. So, all you have to do, okay, first step is to enter global configuration mode. Okay, I'm going to demo that later, but I'm just going to show you the commands as a whole. Okay, para maliwanag, no? So, go to global. And then the command to create VLAN with a valid ID number is VLAN space and then the VLAN ID number. Alright, so for example, okay, if you want to create 3 VLANs, 10, VLAN 10, VLAN 11, VLAN 12, isa-isa. Okay, so you have VLAN space VLAN 10, enter. VLAN space VLAN 11, enter. Okay, ganun lang siya kasimple. Okay. In order for you to easily identify VLAN, okay, meron tayong command, no? For example, let's say you want to create distinct VLAN description. Pwede. Okay, so for example, VLAN 10, enter, space name, you can do that, and name space faculty. Okay, so that means sinet mo yung VLAN 10, okay, ID, VLAN 10, ng pangalan niya, ang description niya is a faculty VLAN. Alright, ganun lang siya. Ulit-ulit lang siya. Hanggang sa makumpleto mo yung mga VLAN na kailangan mong iset for that particular switch. So, if we're going to go back to this topology right here, tignan natin. Okay, ilan ba yung VLANs niya dito? Ayan. So, ayan. So, si S2, ilan yung VLAN na kailangan mong iset sa kanya? S2. Okay, you have VLAN 10 tsaka VLAN 20. So, ang gagawin mo dyan, so, punta ka sa global mode, type mo, VLAN space 10, enter, name, space, faculty, enter. Alright, okay na siya nun. Exit. VLAN space 20, enter, name, student. Pa-isa-isa. Alright? So, if you, pag ginawa mo yan kay S2, alright, you also need to do that kay S3. So, you just have to repeat the process. Okay? Of creating VLAN ID and naming VLAN ID accordingly. Okay? So, kung ano nakalitaw. Kung ano yung lagay na VLAN name. Okay. Sige, proceed tayo. Alright. So, ito yung example natin kanina. So, for example, let's say, ito siya, no? Si S1, meron tayong student VLAN here. So, gumawa siya. VLAN 20, name, student. Alright? So, ganun lang siya kasimple. Okay. Now, okay, once the VLAN is created, okay, the next step you need to do is to assign the port to the correct interface. Alright? So, ibig sabihin, for example, ito. Okay. Si PC2, magiging member siya ng student VLAN. So, paano natin siya ililipat? Paano mo siya gagawing membro ng student VLAN? Okay, simple lang. Titingnan mo kung saan siya nakasaksak. Kung anong port yung gamit ni PC2. Okay? Ang port na gamit niya is F0/18. That is port 18 ni S1. So, ang gagawin lang natin dito sa port 18 na to, ililipat natin siya kay VLAN 20. Ililipat natin siya kay VLAN 20. Okay? Anong VLAN ba siya nabibilang? Itong port na to initially. Again, by default, na kay VLAN 1 siya. Pinag-usapan natin kanina. Okay? So, gagawin natin, from VLAN 1, ililipat natin siya kay VLAN 20 para maging member siya ni student VLAN. Itong port na to, ililipat natin siya kay VLAN 20. Okay? Ganun lang siya kasimple. Okay, so to do that, okay, mamaya i-demo ko rin to, no? To do that, pasok ka lang sa global mode. Okay? Interface ka lang doon sa port na gusto mong ilipat. Okay? Palitan mo siya kung ano yung mode na gusto mo. Trunk pa siya or access. Okay, kailan siya magiging access? Okay, bakit access yung ginamit sa kanya? Okay, access siya kasi papunta siya kay PC. Alright? Ayan o. Papunta siya kay PC. Okay? Hindi naman siya trunk. Ito yung trunk eh. Hindi naman trunk yung port 18. So, interface FA0/18 switchport mode access. Okay? Para just to make sure. Then after that, ililipat na natin siya ng VLAN. So, how to do that? Ito yon. Assign the port to a VLAN. So, the command is switchport access VLAN, and then yung VLAN ID na gusto mong paglipatan ng port na yon. So, in this case, ang ilalagay mo dito will be 20. Papalitan mo lang yung mga values dito, but this is the overall syntax of that command, yung structure niya, guys. Okay? So, ito yung itsura niya. Yan. So, ayan. So, papalitan lang natin, no? Take note of this. Again, global mode. Pupunta ako. Interface, FA0/18. Look at that. The port, kung saan nakakonect si PC2. Kasi gagawin kong member ni student VLAN si PC2. Okay? Then, I'm gonna do switchport mode access just to make sure. Bakit access? Again, kasi nasa PC siya. Okay? Connected. Anything that is connected to a host, automatic access yung mode niyan. Itong switch to switch na to, this is supposed to be configured as trunk later. So, imbis na access ang lalagay mo dyan, switchport mode trunk, dito sa port na to. Okay? Pero dito muna tayo. Ito yung usapan natin. No? Wala pa tayo sa trunking. No? Ito muna tayo. Port 18. Switchport access. Paglilipat mo na siya, VLAN space 20. Alright? So, pag ginawa mo yan, tapos nag-show VLAN brief ka, may kita mo na yung port 18 mawawala na kay default VLAN 1. Malilipat na siya kay VLAN 20. So, it means port 18 is now member of VLAN 20, which is the student VLAN. Okay? So, ganun lang yung paglipat, no? Sige. Okay. Let's just proceed. Okay. So, ito yung show VLAN. Yung mga show commands natin, no? So, show VLAN brief. Alright? So, very useful command. Show VLAN summary. So, pag nag-show VLAN summary ka, papakita niya ilan na ba yung VLAN na nagawa mo. Okay? So, ayan, no? You can also delete, no? VLANs pag nagkamali ka. So, ito yung kanina, no, guys? Ayan, no? Papakita ko rin to later sa demo. If you want, okay, pwede mong ibalik ulit doon or pwede mong i-delete na lang itong VLAN na to, pwede. Hindi mo lang pwedeng i-delete yung default, which is VLAN 1. No? So, pag nagkamali ka, you can always, for example, imbis na port 18 lang nalipat mo port 17, you can always go back. Alright? So, mamaya i-correct natin yon. So, this is how we delete VLANs by using the command no VLAN and then the VLAN ID. So, for example, you wanted to delete VLAN 20. So, pasok lang ako global mode, no VLAN space 20. Alright? So, ganun lang siya kasimple. Okay? Alright. So, before we proceed with trunks, okay, let me just show you a simple demo, okay, of that particular configuration. Yung kanina, no? Yung VLAN config. Okay. So, kung titingnan natin to guys, we have here, okay, gawin muna natin yung itong portion na to, no? So, in this example right here, okay, itong mga to, itong dalawang computer na to are part of the okay, itong color-coded na to, that is PC0 and PC3 are members of VLAN 10, which is the IT department. So, gagawin ko silang VLAN 10 IT department. So, ang gagawin ko dito, I'm going to configure switch 1 so that itong port na to, okay, na nakakonect kay PC0, okay, is mapunta kay VLAN 10. Alright, so I'm just gonna do the first part. Okay, so again, no, yung iba nun is just the actual repeat, no, ng gagawin ko. So kapag nagawa ko siya dito, okay, all you have to do is to follow the procedure in order for you to assign naman yung mga ibang ports papunta naman sa mga ibang VLAN assignments nila or VLAN memberships nila. Okay, so let's do that, no? So, ano yung muna yung kailangan mong i-gather na requirement? So, una, okay, so punta muna ako dito sa switch na to. I-check ko muna kung anong port ang kailangan kong ilipat. Ito yun. That is port 1, FA01, connect si PC0. That will become member of VLAN 10, IT department. So, yun yung detalye na kailangan kong hawakan. So, punta ako kay switch 1. Enable muna ako dito. Global mode. Palitan ko lang yung host name, SW1, para switch 1 siya. Okay. So, again, no, let's just follow the configuration kanina. Okay, exit muna ako, guys. Pakita ko lang sa inyo, no, yung initial configuration nung switch in terms of VLAN. So, using show VLAN brief. Okay. Okay. Lakihan ko lang siya. So, you will notice, no, parehong-pareho. You have VLAN ID number 1, which is the default VLAN. Okay, active. Lahat ng ports hawak niya. Alright, so at this point, lahat ng port assignments na kay VLAN 1 by default. So, as you can see, no, wala pang ibang VLANs dyan. As again, these are the reserved VLAN IDs, no, in terms of the standard VLAN ID from 1 to 1005. So, ang gagawin natin, gagawa tayo ng VLANs. Okay, 10, 20, and 30 dito sa switch na to. Okay, and then paggaganahin natin, ito lilipat natin kay VLAN 10. Yung port 0/1. So, as you can see, no, here, initially, 0/1 is member of VLAN 1. Okay, and then wala pa kayong nakikitang VLAN 10 IT dyan. Wala pa. No, wala pa. So, gagawa muna tayo. Okay. So, let's start. So, global mode tayo. Okay. So, the command to create VLAN first is, you just have to type the command VLAN space 10. Alright. Enter. Okay. Ayan na siya. So, as you can see, papalit siya ng prompt, no? Lilipat siya ng config/VLAN. So, pagdating dito, you can now change the different parameters. So, nasa loob ka na ng VLAN 10. So, papalitan ko siya name space IT. So, just put IT there. Alright. Parang host name. Okay. So, enter. Okay. Exit muna ako. Check natin, no, guys. kung tinanggap niya yung changes ko dun sa initial command ko. So, show VLAN brief. Enter. So, asan na? Okay, ayun. So, as you notice, no, kanina we only have the VLAN 1 and then this VLAN defaults right here. But now, we already have VLAN 10. Okay, the name is IT. Ito yung ginawa natin kanina. Alright? Now, the next step, after you created VLAN, actually pwede mo nang ituloy-tuloy yan eh. Okay? So, for example, let's say, huwag muna akong maglipat. Okay, gusto muna, gawin ko muna lahat ng mga VLANs. Pwede yon. So, I have VLAN 20 finance. Sige, so, global mode. Okay, VLAN 20. Alright, name, finance. VLAN 30. Name, marketing. So, you can do that. You can just have straight. But after the VLAN ID, name, okay, just to be able to make sure that you are targeting that VLAN ID. Exit ako. Show VLAN brief to check. Alright, look at this. So, ayan na sila. So, you now have VLAN 10, you now have VLAN 20, you now have VLAN 30. Okay, nagkamali ako. Okay, instead of VLAN 20, VLAN 15 pala. So, anong gagawin natin? Okay, global. Okay. So, gagawin mo lang, pagbuburahin, no, VLAN 20. Okay. Enter. Okay, exit ako. Show VLAN brief. Enter. Alright, wala na si VLAN 20. So, ganun lang siya kasimple. Okay? So, no, we'll delete certain VLAN ID. Pabalik natin siya. Okay? VLAN 20 ulit. Name. Sa pangalan nun. We have finance. Ayan, finance. Alright, so on your packet tracer, you will have the same VLAN parameters that you're going to set. Alright, so once you do that, show VLAN brief ulit. Okay, now I have, or you can do show VLAN summary if you want. Okay, check mo lang natin to. Show VLAN name. Oops. For example, IT. Ayan siya. So you can use different show commands. Show VLAN brief. Ayan siya. Okay, so we now have this 3 VLANs recently created and then they are all active. Now the next step will be, okay, in order for you to assign, no? Okay, gagawin natin to. Now look at this. Gagawin natin after creating the VLAN IDs is we are now going to transfer port assignments so that this PC will become officially member of VLAN 10. So, paano natin siya gagawing membro ng VLAN 10? So, ang gagawin natin, ililipat natin yung port 1. Ito kung saan siya nakakonect. Bakit port 1? Kasi that is FA0/1. Diyan ako papasok. Ililipat ko siya ng VLAN 10. Kasi nga, by default guys, port 01, okay, port 01 is member of VLAN 1. Alright, you see? Okay, port 01, FA01, by default is member of VLAN 1. So, in order for this computer right here to become member of VLAN 10, kailangan yung kung saang port siya nakakonect, ang nilitaw dito will be member of VLAN 10. So, dapat dito, sa VLAN 10 na to, nandito dapat si port 0/1. Ililipat mo siya dito. Ililipat natin siya. Okay? Sige, let's do that. Okay. So, global. Okay, so how to transfer? Papasukan mo yung port na gusto mong ilipat using interface command. So, interface, fast Ethernet, that is 0/1. Now, pagdating dito, just be careful when targeting port numbers. Alright? So, 0/1. So, you just have to follow ito, yung F, yan, yung 0/1. Okay? So, yan. depende to, no, guys. Hindi, paiba-iba siya, no. Hindi ibig sabihin na 0/1 ang ginamit ko dito, you're just going to follow the port assignment. No. It depends kung anong port sila nakasaksak. So again, you have to be aware of the port assignment and the port active kung saan naka-connect yung particular computer na target mo. Okay, so in this case, it is port 0/1. Enter lang ako. And then, ang gagawin natin dito, we're going to change its mode. So, using the command switchport mode. Okay, pag nag-question mark ako dito, dalawang mode lang naman yan or tatlo. Mamaya, tingnan natin yung dynamic, no? Pero, usually access, trunk. Okay, later on, we're gonna do dynamic type of switchport. Okay, but right now, we're gonna choose access. Okay, why access? Kasi nga, it is pointing to a host. Okay, we only use trunk kapag switch-to-switch communication. Ito, switch-to-switch, and then we are setting this as trunk to allow VLAN communication, end-to-end VLAN communication. So, mamaya ito-trunk natin ito. Okay, just to do that. Okay, so switch mode access. Pag ililipat na natin siya, the command will be switchport. Okay, switchport access. Alright, switchport access VLAN space, and then the VLAN ID you wanted that port to be transferred to. Alright, so saan anong VLAN ID natin siya gustong ilipat? Itong port 1 na to, where we're transferring it to VLAN 10. So lalagay natin dito ID number 10. Ganun lang kasimple. Okay, enter lang ako dito. Okay, so check natin kung tinanggap niya. So show VLAN brief, enter. Okay, you see that right there. Okay, so look at this. So port 1 is now officially member of VLAN 10 ID. So nalipat na siya. Ayun na siya, oh guys. It is now active and is now running on IT. We are now created a segment. Okay, a logical segment wherein PC0 is logically separated from the other groups. Iniwalay mo na siya. It is now officially a member of VLAN 10. It can no longer communicate with other VLANs. Okay? Unless magkapareho sila ng VLAN ID. Okay? So itong PC na to, pag ginawa ko rin siyang VLAN 10, nilipat ko itong port na to, yung port 0/2, ginawa ko siyang switchport access VLAN 10. So, ibig sabihin, itong dalawang to will now become member of VLAN 10. So again, regardless kung saan sila nakakonect, pwede rin yung mga nandito, ayan, pwede rin to. So regardless kung kahit saang switch sila nakakonect, as long as they can communicate with each other, as long as they are connected on a switch that is running a same VLAN preference, pwede silang mag-usap as long as they are member of that particular VLAN segment. Okay? So ayan, nalipat na siya guys. Nalipat na siya. Okay? So, what do we do now, no? For example, din sa kabila, no? Let's say, ano ba yung mga parameters natin? Okay, look at this. PC1 and PC4 will become member of VLAN 20. Okay, gawin natin yun, no? So, ito daw will be, itong PC na to will become member of VLAN 20, which is finance. Ito, yung PC1. Yan. So, yan. So, VLAN 20 daw to. So, anong gagawin natin dito, guys? So, titingnan natin kung saan na-connect si PC1. That is port 0/2. Punta ka lang sa kanya. Okay. Bisa na lang. Global mode, interface. Alright. Fast Ethernet, 0/2. Again, make sure that you are targeting the correct port number. Okay, switch port. Ulit-ulit lang to guys, no? Switch port, mode, access, don't forget. Okay, and then switch port, access, VLAN. Okay, anong VLAN siya? Okay, we will be transferring it to VLAN 20. Kasi as you can see, no, wala pang laman yung VLAN 20 natin. So, VLAN 20. Enter. Okay, exit ako. Show VLAN brief. Enter. Alright, so as you can see again, no? Galing siya dito on the default, but now port 2 is now a member. Okay, look at this. PC1, which is connected to port 0/2, is now officially a member of the finance VLAN. So, kung gusto ko, silang dalawa nito, itong dalawa nito, so ang gagawin ko pa din kay switch 2, I'm just going to repeat the process hanggang sa ma-match mo silang lahat. Alright? So, kung ano yung ginawa ko dito sa side na to, sa switch na to, okay, I'm going also to do it on the other side with the same preferences. Alright? So, ganun lang siya kasimple. Alright? So, that's how we assign VLANs. Okay? Next, let's take a look at trunks. Madali lang naman yung trunking natin, guys. So, ang papalitin lang natin doon is the mode. Instead of access, you're gonna do trunk. Okay? Pero yung kung saan ka pupunta, it's just the same. It's just the same. Alright? And then also, you will need to identify or to set the trunk, the native VLAN kung saan mag-set yung trunk. Okay? So, pag sinabi sa packet tracer file na ang native VLAN natin is 99, for example lang. So, yun yung susundan mong VLAN ID. Okay? And then we also have the command switchport trunk allowed and then the VLAN ID, VLAN list that you wanted to pass through. By default, lahat naman ng VLANs na dumadaan sa trunk ay allowable. Pero you can also specify it here if you want. Okay? So, set natin to. Okay, look at this. So, we have our trunk right here. Look at this. This is our trunk. This is our VLANs na kailangang dumaan dun sa trunk na yon. Okay, ito yung mga VLANs natin na kailangan dumaan dun sa trunk. So, VLAN 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 30. Okay, so gagawin lang natin dito, pupunta ako kay S2 or S1. Kay S1 ako, for example lang. Interface Fast Ethernet 0/1. Ito yon. Okay. Anong mode ito? Okay, trunk. Okay, bakit hindi access? Kasi nga, okay, this will be used as a platform kung saan dadaan yung mga VLAN communications. Kaya nga trunk siya. Okay, it's more like a bridge. Alright? So, yan, papalitan mo lang siya. Okay, switch port mode, trunk. That's it. Okay? And then, next, you're going to set the native VLAN of that particular trunk. So, for example, switchport trunk, native VLAN. Ang pinapagamit na native VLAN is 99, for example lang. Set mo lang, 99. Okay. Now, take note. Kung ano yung native VLAN na sinet mo dito, for example, ang native VLAN na sinet mo dito is VLAN 99. Native VLAN, ha? Trunk, native VLAN. Pagdating dito sa dulo, you also need to change the native VLAN to 99. Dapat equal sila, pareho. Okay? That is one troubleshooting reminder, no guys. Ayaw mag-communicate, ayaw mag-pass through. Bakit kaya? Sinet ko naman lahat. Okay? So, ito yung kailangan mong i-check. Baka naman hindi mo isinet yung native VLAN itong magkabilang dulo into the same native VLAN number. So, dapat pareho sila. So, kung sinet mo to 99, tapos ito, nakalimutan mo siya, it's still at 1. 99 native VLAN, 1 native VLAN, that is trunk native mismatch. They will not communicate. Okay? Or walang pass-through na mangyayari dyan. So, in order for you to correct that, you should be able to set the native VLAN ng magkabilang dulo. Okay? Then, command, switchport trunk allowed, VLAN 10, 20, 30, including the native VLAN. Okay? Or, actually, kahit hindi mo gawin to, by default naman, lahat naman ina-allow niyang mag-pass through. Okay? Or pwede mong gawin to, kung ayaw mong isa-isahin, VLAN space, lagay mo na lang all. So, imbis na maglagay ka ng mga numbers dyan, all na lang lagay mo. Pwede yun. Okay. So, kapag ginawa mo yun, gagana. Once you do that, everything is in order. Okay? Yung protocol natin, 802.12 tagging, okay, it will change the encapsulation into that particular protocol to support VLAN communication and packet frame exchange. Okay. So, to check, again, no, to check if a certain port is configured properly, ito yung command natin. Show interface, yung gusto mong i-check na port, and then space switch port. So, ayan, sasabihin niya sa'yo. So, show interfaces. Ito, yan. So, okay, name. Ito, port 1, sabi niya. Ano daw yung mode niya? Ayan, trunk. Pag nakita mo yan, access, okay, kailangan mo siyang palitan. Ibig sabihin, may mali doon. Okay, this is the standard. That one queue. Okay. You will also see there the trunking native VLAN number. So, ito yung chine-check natin now, guys. Sa troubleshooting, this will work, no? Pag chinek mo, tapos nakalagay dito, 1. Tapos yung kapares niya, 99. So, ibig sabihin, ito yung mali. Ito yung kailangan mong palitan na native VLAN. Okay, ganun lang siya kasimple. Okay? So, yan. So, again, the command is show interfaces, yung port ID, space switch port. Okay. Now, how to reset the trunk to default state? Okay, so ang gagawin mo lang ito, no switch port trunk allowed, no switch port. So, lahat ng mga command na siniset natin, like the switch port trunk allowed. Okay, lagyan mo lang siya ng no sa umpisa. Ibabalik niya to i-default. Okay, i-negate niya lahat ng mga pinagta-type mong command. Okay. Alright, so let's take a look or let's have the trunk. Sige, natin. Proceed tayo dito, guys. So, in here, nagawa ko na yung VLAN 10, VLAN 20, but this time, I'm going to run. Okay, ito, guys. I'm going to make this one trunk. And I'm going to use native VLAN. Okay, gaya na lang natin, no? 99 as our native VLAN. Okay, for all trunks. So, ayan. So, set ko. Okay, ako yung nag-set ng parameters, no, guys? So, I'm just following my own parameters. Pero on your packet tracer activities, okay, kung ano yung nakalagay na native VLAN, okay, yun yung kailangan yung sundin. Okay. So, I'm gonna go to switch 1. I'm gonna change this port right here, yung G0/1 into trunk. And then, I'm gonna set VLAN 99 as its trunk native VLAN. Okay, so pasok lang tayo dito. Global mode ulit. Okay, so pasok na ako kagad, no? Interface. Okay, that is G. Okay, Gigabit Ethernet 0/1. Alright, look at that. G0/1. Enter. Okay, so I'm just gonna change the switch port mode. Okay, this time I'm not going to use access kasi nga I'm changing it to trunk. So look at that. Switch port mode trunk. Enter. Okay, so mag-up yan. Don't mind the notification. It just tells you na una mag-up siya. Okay, and then biglang magda-down. Bakit? Kasi, iisang trunk pa lang ito. Trunk ko na to, pero this one right here sa kabilang dulo naka-access pa rin. Access pa rin yan. So, para mag-green yan pareho, kailangan trunk sila pareho. At saka kailangan gumagamit sila ng parehong native VLAN. Okay? So, switch port, mode trunk, okay, switch port, okay, trunk, okay, native VLAN, and which goes to 99. So, that is the command. Okay, switch port trunk, native VLAN 99. Enter. Okay. Exit ako. Okay, to check. Okay, exit ulit. To check if tinanggap niya yung command ko on G0/1. Ano kasi yung command natin? Show interfaces G0/1 switch port. Diba yan yung command natin kanina? Show interfaces. Let's take a look. So, ano yung mga lilitaw dyan? Okay, the switch port is enabled. The mode is trunk. Look at that. Alright. The trunking native VLAN is 99. So, ayan. Okay, pero bakit inactive? Ayan. So, makikita natin mamaya why inactive. Okay, kasi, probably one reason is that yung kaparis niyang dulo dito is still running. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at this. Look at this. Message right here. Look at that. Native VLAN mismatch discovered on G0/1. Sabi niya. Okay? Native VLAN 99 na yung gamit nyo, pero yung switch sa kabilang dulo, ang gamit pa rin niya is the default native VLAN 1. So, they are not communicating with each other. Okay? So, ano pa kasi yung command kanina? Okay. Interface G0/1 switchport mode trunk. Okay, we also have the switchport trunk allowed VLAN. And then, okay, sasabihin ko na lang dito all. Ito yung allowed, di ba? So, for example, let's say, so, okay, you allow all VLANs to pass through. Okay? Or you can set, pwede naman pag ganito, 10, 20, 30, 99. Okay? So, yung 10, 20, 30, yung mga VLANs natin kanina. Yung 99, yun yung native VLAN. So, ayan. So, enter lang ako dito. That's it. Okay, so para ayusin natin tong native VLAN mismatch na sinasabi niya dito, ano yung kailangan natin gawin? Okay, kailangan mong pumunta dun sa kabilang dulo. Okay, yung dulo na to. And then change it to a certain VLAN mode. Okay, so papalitan lang natin yon. So I'm gonna go to SW2, switch 2. So, yung notification for error, hindi matatanggal yan unless naayos mo na yung native VLAN mismatch nila, no? So, enable, configure terminal, hostname, SW2, enter. Okay. And then, I'm just gonna, okay, interface. Alright. So, G0/1, okay. Switch port, mode, trunk. Okay. And then, switch port trunk. Oops. Native VLAN 99. Okay, look at this now. Look at what will happen here. So, yan siya. And then I'm gonna go switch port trunk allowed VLAN 10, 20, 30, 99. So, I'm allowing all VLAN IDs to pass through this trunk line, yung G01. Okay? So, let me check. Show interfaces, G01, switch port. Enter. Okay, look at this. So, I now have okay, I now have my switch port. Okay, you have your trunk right there. The access mode is still VLAN, but the negotiation of trunking is already on. Okay, ibig sabihin, wala na yung error natin kanina. Both of the switches, both the switch are communicating through the same native VLAN trunk, which is 99. So, if you're going to look at the, ito, hindi niya napalilitawin ito. Wala na yan. Hindi na yan lilitaw. Kasi we already configured the other side to run native VLAN 99 as well. So, wala nang native VLAN mismatch. So, again, that is just a reminder, no? In case, for example, let's say, sa troubleshooting part, then gagawin mo siya. So, sa switch to no, ang gagawin mo, okay, kasi as you can see right here, ginawa na natin yung trunk, pero when I do show VLAN brief, okay, wala pang VLAN to. Kasi nga, ang ginawa ko kanina is yung switch 1. Diba? So, as I've said a while ago, if you want to group these computers here to be part of the VLAN assignment, you have to repeat the process na ginawa ko kanina. So, ang gagawin mo dito, sa switch 2, example lang, configure terminal, okay, VLAN 10, name IT, yun. Tapos, VLAN 20, name finance, VLAN 30, name, pangalan ng VLAN 30, marketing. Yan. So, gano'n lang siya. And then, all you have to do is to transfer port. So, exit ako dito. Okay, interface. F0/1 ko yan. F port 1. Oops, sorry. interface F01, switch port mode access. Okay, switch port access. And then, nililipat ko na siya ng VLAN 10. Yan. Okay? So, yan. So, when I do show VLAN brief here, okay, ayun na siya. Nalipat na rin sa IT. So, ibig sabihin, ito niyan, itong dalawang to, okay, which is part of the VLAN 10 IT group or IT segment. Okay, once na na-okay na yung IP address ng mga yan, can be able to communicate with each other na sila lang. So, kumbaga yung broadcast nila will be exclusive, okay, to this segment group. Yan. So, na-separate natin logically yung mga computers even though they are physically connected to a single switch. Kita nyo? So, even though they are physically connected to a single switch, we are able to separate them logically. Alright? So, ganun lang siya. Okay, so the second part, alright, of this discussion will cover inter-VLAN routing naman. So, sa inter-VLAN routing, we're gonna add router, kasi nga, routing. Okay, we're gonna add router here. Okay? And then, we're gonna connect that router to a certain switch, for example lang, okay, in order to allow naman communication between VLANs. Kaya nga, tinatawag natin siyang inter-VLAN routing. Okay, kasi for example, ito, na-separate mo na siya. VLAN 20, VLAN 10, hindi na pwedeng mag-exchange ng mag-usap. Pero what if, in a certain, in a certain company, sa isang organization, di ba? What if kailangan nila talagang mag-communicate with each other? They needed to share files with each other. Okay? Yung broadcast, yes. Okay, it is exclusive to certain group. Okay, that's how you are mitigating the broadcast traffic control, no? Segmentation. Okay? To enhance the network flow. Pero hindi naman ibig sabihin na hindi mo sila papayagang mag-usap with each other, no? Yung IT group, finance group, di ba? Tsaka yung marketing group. In order for them to communicate naman, you will need a router. So, dyan papasok si router, yung trabaho ni router. That is the second part of our second module. Okay, module 2. Okay, we call it inter-VLAN routing. Alright? So, sige. See you guys in a while for that. Tingnan natin, okay? So, hopefully, walang question kay VLAN. VLAN access, VLAN trunking. Okay? So, ang next discussion natin will be the how to configure this router so that it will allow inter-VLAN communication. Kaya nga, inter-VLAN communication. VLAN to VLAN communication. Okay? VLAN from other groups can be able to communicate with VLAN from different IDs. Okay, sige. Alright guys, so now on the second part of this module, okay, we're going to talk about inter-VLAN routing. Okay, so after we establish all our VLANs, okay, after we configured all our VLANs on our switch, okay, and then created segments now to separate the broadcast domain using different VLAN IDs and logical groupings of host per VLAN. So now it's time, okay, sabi nga last time, no, it's not enough that you separate VLANs into logical groups, no. Most of the time, VLANs from other group segments must be able to or should communicate or should be able to communicate with each other, though they are logically separated in a company. Okay, most of the time kailangan din nilang mag-usap, no? So in order for you to do that, okay, you need to implement what we call inter-VLAN routing. Okay, so what exactly is inter-VLAN routing, no? So, sabi dito, inter-VLAN routing is the process of forwarding network traffic from one VLAN to another VLAN. Okay, so it's just pretty straightforward, no? So we have three inter-VLAN routing options. So we have the old legacy inter-VLAN routing. Okay, ito yung luma. So we don't actually do this, use this one anymore. Okay, we have the most common router on a stick setup. Okay, which is an acceptable solution for small to medium-sized network. And also we have the layer 3 switching, okay, using layer 3 switch, okay, preferably for medium to large size organizations. Okay, so let's just proceed with the configuration of inter-VLAN. Okay, let's say for example we have this topology right here. Okay, so yung sample natin last time, okay, we have for example, let's say two switches connected on a trunk link right here, and then we have how many VLAN? For this example, we have two VLANs. We have a VLAN 10 and then we have VLAN 20. So let's assume that these VLANs are already configured on the switch. Okay, so ang gagawin na lang natin is we're going to use R1, which is our router, to enable inter-VLAN routing so that VLAN 10 or members of VLAN 10 may be able to communicate with members of VLAN 20. So, mangyayari niyan, kapag kailangan mag-usap ng PC1 and PC2, even though they are members of different VLAN groups, ang mangyayari, ibabato yan kay R1. Okay? So, si R1, since meron siyang record of all the VLANs that is existing on your network, okay, siya na yung bahalang mag-route. Kaya nga we call it inter-VLAN routing. Okay, so this one is the most common router on a stick setup. Diba? Kasi para siyang lollipop, no? Router on a stick. Alright? So, ito yung description niya, no? Without R1, okay, without inter-VLAN route functionality, PC1 and PC2, okay, cannot ping each other on the network. Okay, simply because they are separately or they are logically separated. Okay, kasi nga nasa ibang VLAN group sila. VLAN 10, VLAN 20. So as we learned, no, only members of the same VLAN group can be able to communicate with each other in a simple VLAN environment, no? Pero sabi ko nga, no, there will be times or most of the times sa isang company, you will need to enable communications between VLAN group. So in this case, you're gonna need router in order for you to do that. Okay, so bago mo magawa yun, guys, we're gonna need different requirements. Okay, meron tayong mga parameters na kailangan i-check. No? First things first, okay, kailangan, okay, as you can see right here, nakaturo na dyan, no? This port right here and that port right there, so should be configured as trunk links. So malinaw yan, no? We discussed already the difference between trunk and access mode ng mga switch ports, no? So kapag trunk, okay, basically they are used to, ayan, ito, and the other one right there. So they should be configured as trunk links. The other minimum requirement, actually this is the most important, no, is the configuration of what we call sub-interface. In a normal network scenario, whenever you have two networks, okay, ang gagawin ni router is gagamit ka ng isang physical interface to separate that network, right? Pero since nga we have two or more VLANs here, hindi sapat yung physical interface ni router. So instead, we're gonna use what we call sub-interface. Alright? Sub-interface. Okay, you can create as many sub-interface as you want. That will match, okay, or that matches the number of VLANs that you wanted to support, okay, on that particular router. Okay, so yung paggawa ng sub-interface, ganito lang kasimple. So you're gonna create interface, for example, separated by dot. Okay, so whenever you see this format right here, so this is the actual port. Ito yung physical port, G00/1. That is the physical port of the router. Okay, when you put dot and then the number, okay, for example, that 10, that is a sub-interface that you created, okay, to support certain VLAN group. Okay, you can use any subinterface number. Okay, pero para to just make it simple, no? Para simplihan na lang natin. What is advisable is you use the number. For example, ang VLAN ID na gusto mong i-support nitong subinterface na to is the VLAN 10. So, para hindi na kayo malito, okay, gamitin mo na lang din yung .10 as a subinterface number to support VLAN 10. Alright? So, ganun lang siya kasimple. But then again, you can use other numbers of subinterface to support that VLAN. Pero, what Cisco suggests is you just use the VLAN parameter, especially the ID, para lang hindi siya nakakalito. So, .10 for VLAN 10, .20 for VLAN 20. Okay, ang ginamit niya dito for VLAN 99 is .30. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina. You can use any number for subinterface. Okay, you can also use .99 here, no problem. Okay, so in this example, ang ginagamit niya is .30 to support VLAN 99. Okay lang din yun. Alright? So, just not be able to mix numbers up. Okay, yun yung purpose natin why we are matching subinterface with VLAN IDs. Alright? And at the same time, aside from the subinterface, you also need to specify the IP address. So, this IP address, as you can see, no, they are different. Magkakaiba sila per VLAN because this serves as your default gateway. Okay, per VLAN. So, for example, itong network nito, VLAN 10, ito yung network address niya, 10.10 yung IP address niya, 10.0 yung network address. Ang gateway na gagamitin is 10.1. So, nakasave lahat yan sa subinterfaces ni R1. Alright? So, just take note, no, of different IP addresses, okay, that will serve as gateway. So this is the step. Alright, so I think we did this one last time. Okay, yung pag-prepare muna ng VLAN, creating VLAN IDs, yung name, alright, and so on. Creating the management VLAN right there, the default gateway. Okay, changing the port to from access default to mode trunk. Okay, just in case there will be ports that needed to be trunked. Okay, and then of course the native VLAN assignment. So we did that last time. Okay, so to create subinterface, ganito lang siya kasimple, guys. Look at this. Okay, so first, okay, to create subinterface .10, ang gagawin mo lang, the command is interface G0/0/1. For example, this is the physical interface, and then you're just gonna add .10. Okay, to create that subinterface. Alright, and then you can also put description if you want. So this is more like a comment. Alright, sa mga programming subjects ninyo, comments. Okay, description. This will serve as default gateway for VLAN 10. Alright, the next command will be, alright, to enable the encapsulation standard. Okay, for that particular subinterface. Okay, so you're just going to specify it. So the command will be encapsulation. Given na rin yan, .1Q, that is the standard. Ano tong 10 na to? Okay, yung 10 na to, that would be the VLAN ID that you want these subinterfaces to support. So, for example, yan, .10 nga, no? Ito yung ginawa mong subinterface. Ano ba yung susuportahan nitong subinterface na ginawa ko? Okay? Ang isusupport nito will be the VLAN 10. Kaya nga, 10 ang nakalagay dyan. Okay? That's why it's pretty important, no? That you just choose the matching subinterface number with the VLAN ID. Para hindi na lang siya nakakalito. Alright? And then after that, you just put IP address to that particular subinterface. And then that's it. Exit na. Alright? So, that's it for VLAN 10. Okay? So, meron ng suporta yung VLAN 10. Meron na siyang sariling default gateway. Now, all you have to do is to repeat the process for the remaining VLANs. So, for example, if you have 3 or more VLANs, all you have to do is to repeat the process. No? So, interface G00, this one is .20. Alright? The description, ayan siya, for VLAN 20. Encapsulation .1Q, again, 20. This time, it's not 10, it's 20 that will support VLAN 20. The IP address assignment, and that's it. Same with that 99. Pareho lang yung command na yan. You just have to repeat the process. Okay? And then after that, okay, do not forget, Okay, to turn the physical link on. Look at this, no? So, pasok ko sa interface, pwedeng mauna to, no? Actually, pwedeng mauna to dun sa itaas if you want, no? Para naka-on na siya kaagad when you create the sub-interfaces, no? So, pero if you created sub-interfaces and then you haven't turned on the physical link yet, okay lang din. So, pwede mo siyang gawin sa ilalim. So, interface G00/1. Description, sabi dito, trunk link papunta kay S1. And then, to turn it on, we have the command no shutdown. And then end. So, once you do that, you notice here, no? Look at this. Okay, kanina naka-down yung mga yan. So, how many sub-interfaces have you created? 1, 2, 3. Alright. So, lahat ng mga yan, ginawa mong sub-interface, since in-on mo yung mother interface niya, which is G001. Alright? All of those sub-interfaces will turn on as well. Alright? So, ganun lang siya kasimple. So, this whole procedure here is enabling router on a stick setup in order for VLAN 10 and VLAN 20 to communicate with each other using that particular router. So, dadaan lahat sila kay R1 when they wanted to communicate with each other. Okay? So, ganun siya. So, once you do that, okay, to check, okay, if your router on a stick setup is working, you can do ping on host. Alright? So, that's it. No? Ganun lang siya. Okay? So, pagpasok natin sa routing, I think we will be adding routes, maybe static or dynamic route kapag when it already involves other networks, no? But with this scenario or with this setup, okay, pwede na sila. Okay, they can actually communicate with each other. Okay, let's just try that on our dummy topology. So ito yun, guys. Alright? So, I'm just gonna create, I'm just gonna simulate yung yung pinakita ko kanina to support VLAN 10. So, ito yung mga requirement ko. Ito yung network address niya. So, I'm just gonna use 10.1 here. Okay? So, to do that, no? And then, yung trunk link ni switch 2, papalitan ko rin yan. So, this one must be configured as trunk. So, let me just start off with switch 2 muna. Okay, let me just do that. Enable, configure terminal interface. Anong port yan? That is G0/2. I'm just gonna change the switch port mode to trunk. Alright? And then switch port trunk. Native VLAN 99. Okay. So, I'm gonna exit here. Okay, I'm just gonna save that. Oops. I'm just gonna save that, and then I'm just gonna enable the router on the stick setup on R1. Alright, so I'm just gonna configure a router. Okay, I'm just gonna change the host name to R1 to make it formal. Okay, so we're just gonna follow the same procedure, guys. So first, I'm gonna create sub interfaces to support VLAN 10. No, so the command will be interface. Okay, ano yung port na mother port niya? That is G0/0.10. Okay, look at that, no? G0/0, that is the port. Okay, that 10, so that I can create sub-interface 10 to support VLAN 10. So, ayun na siya, pumasok na siya, no? I can do optional description command here. So, pwede kong sabihin dito, default gateway to support VLAN 10. Alright, so that is my description. Alright, and then don't forget the command encapsulation.1q. Okay, and then the VLAN ID is 10. Alright, and then I'm just gonna put IP address as its default gateway. Let's just use the network address, and then let's use the first usable 192.168.10.1.22255.0 since /24 siya, no? So, yan. So, I'm just gonna go and global mode. Alright. Interface. I'm just gonna put another one. Okay, for VLAN 20. Okay, G00.20. Okay, so I created description. This is default gateway to support VLAN 20. So what I did there, I just pressed the up arrow, up key sa keyboard, no? Para ibalik niya lahat ng mga tinype ko. Okay, you can do that, no? Wag type ng type, no? Then encapsulation. Alright, so I have the command encapsulation .1q. This time is 20 to support VLAN 20. Then we're gonna put IP address 192.168.20.1.0. Alright. So I now have the two sub-interfaces to support VLAN 10 and VLAN 20 on this router. But as you notice, no, kahit na sinet ko na yon, still the indicator lights is red. Okay? Or the indicator lights are red. So hindi pa sila nag-green. So there's something wrong here. So ano yung kulang na hindi pa natin nagawa? Alright, so correct. No, yun yung turning on the physical link. Okay, so I just created the sub-interface, but I haven't actually turned the physical link yet. You remember this command right here? Yan. So, ito siya. Alright? Ito. Yung no shutdown command on the mother interface. Alright? So, when you do that, it will also turn on the sub-interfaces that I created. So, end muna ako dito. Global mode. Interface. That is G00. You can also put description there. Description, this would be the trunk link going to SW2. So, ito daw yung trunk link. Look at this, no? G00 is the trunk link papunta kay SW2. Enter. And then, all I have to do is to issue the command no shutdown here. So, look at this, no? So, when you put no shut here, automatically, alright, it will turn on. Look at this. It will turn on, okay, the sub-interface .10 that I created, it will be changed to up. Ibig sabihin, i-on niya. And the sub-interface for 20, changed to up din. Okay? So, yun siya. So, once you're done with that, I guess that's it. No? This will negotiate. Okay? So, lahat ng mga members of VLAN 20, alright, VLAN 10, VLAN 30, once you configure that on the router, okay, pwede na silang mag-usap-usap, even though they are logically separated on the switch. Okay, that's how inter-VLAN routing works. Alright, so I'm just gonna leave the testing phase to you guys. Okay, the test. Okay, this video has been too long already. So I guess the primary commands are discussed. Yun. This is the main core. Actually, this is the core commands. Okay, the VLANs and inter-VLAN. Okay, we're just going to add up with this one kapag umabot na tayo ng security. Alright. Okay, pero as much as possible, the VLAN and the inter-VLAN route are the most important core topics of CCNA2. Okay? So, you have, I think you have 2 or 3 practice PKAs that you will need to configure and submit. Okay? Take note of all the commands habang nakalitaw sila in preparation for our big exam topology at the end of this cycle. Okay, so I guess that's it for module 2. See you again on module number 3. Okay, just send me any chat or if you have questions or clarifications with our packet tracer activities. Okay, goodbye. And thank you for listening.